It's a new day on Tesla Shorts Time, daily, episode 499, coming to you from Vancouver. It's June 3rd, 2026, and the pace of updates around Tesla's vehicles and software keeps layering one practical change on top of another. Rather than running through a checklist, let's walk through how these pieces connect for owners who live with the cars every day. One of the more visible refinements shows up inside the cabin. Tesla's interior accent lights now shift to red when another vehicle sits in a blind spot, giving drivers an immediate visual signal without needing to check the mirrors. The system separates left side and right side detection and widens its coverage at intersections, all while using the existing individual LED controls already in the doors and panels. What this means in practice is that a driver can keep attention forward during lane changes or merges and still catch the cue in peripheral vision. It also removes the need for extra hardware, so the feature rolls out through software rather than a service visit. That same approach shows up again when we look at how Tesla handles driver attention inside the car. The cabin camera's eye tracking logic has been tightened in the version 14 series so that full self-driving issues fewer unnecessary prompts. Instead of nagging at every brief glance away, the system now builds a more nuanced picture of whether the driver is actually engaged with the road. The intent is to cut down on interruptions while the core safety requirement stays in place. For anyone who has felt the earlier versions were overly sensitive on long highway stretches, this adjustment should feel like a direct response to real usage patterns. It also sets up the next regulatory conversations, because any change to how attentiveness is measured will likely be part of upcoming reviews of supervised systems. Those regulatory questions are already surfacing in another corner of the FSD story. Tesla quietly updated older full self-driving purchase agreements by inserting the word supervised into the language. Owners discovered the change after the fact, with no fresh signatures or advance notice. The edit simply brings the contracts into line with how regulators currently describe the feature, but the retroactive nature raises the possibility that some owners may push back and trigger legal discussions. In the meantime, the company is moving ahead on the practical side by expanding where owners can actually use the supervised system with insurance in place. Lemonade has introduced a new policy line in Indiana aimed specifically at Tesla owners running supervised FSD. The coverage factors in the shift in liability that can occur when the driver is still ultimately responsible, yet the car is handling more of the routine work. This is one of the first usage-based products tied directly to Tesla's hardware and software stack, and it will be worth watching to see whether similar offerings appear in other states soon. Insurance access matters because it removes one friction point for drivers who want to test longer supervised routes without coverage gaps. Real-world testing on those longer routes is already producing data points worth noting. A Model Y recently covered 150 miles on the Pennsylvania Turnpike under version 14.3.3, and the results were mixed. Clean highway segments ran smoothly with minimal input, yet construction zones and certain edge situations still required the driver to step in. The report highlighted strong straightaway performance alongside those occasional interventions, which suggests the current software handles predictable high-speed travel better than it handles variable or temporary road conditions. More long-distance runs will be needed before anyone can say how close the system is to handling the full range of highway variability without assistance. While the testing continues, another small but useful cabin change has arrived. The accent lighting that now doubles as a blind spot indicator uses separate left and right detection plus wider angle sensing at intersections. Because it works through the existing LED array, there is no added cost or hardware install for owners. The practical effect is that drivers receive an extra layer of situational awareness that integrates with the same lighting already present for ambient use. It sits alongside the improved eye tracking logic as another incremental step that reduces the mental load without changing the fundamental supervised nature of the system. Owners are also seeing more value from the cameras that support those features. Dashcam and Sentry Mode now capture a full 24 hours of rolling footage instead of the earlier 1-hour buffer. The software change simply extends how the onboard memory is managed, so no new storage hardware is required. In daily use, this means an owner can scroll back through an entire day's worth of activity when reviewing an incident, rather than stitching together short clips. That extended window becomes especially relevant for insurance claims or security reviews, where context across several hours can matter. It also underscores how Tesla's control over both the vehicle operating system and the camera hardware lets it deliver these increments through over-the-air updates, something traditional automakers with multiple supplier layers rarely match at the same pace. Storage improvements help with day-to-day ownership, yet longer-term questions around value retention remain. A recent depreciation analysis found that the Model Y holds its value more steadily than some comparable luxury SUVs in the first year, then experiences a steeper drop afterward. Battery health and the ability to retain the latest software updates are cited as key factors in the modeled outcomes. Because Tesla sells directly and continues to push updates to older vehicles, those elements could shape how the used market prices these cars going forward. That resale picture becomes more relevant as Tesla prepares wider deliveries of its lower-priced Cybertruck. The $59,990 base Cybertruck units have begun arriving at U.S. service centers. This configuration removes the permanent full self-driving hardware from the included price, which lowers the entry point while keeping the option available for later purchase. Logistics are scaling ahead of customer handovers, and the volume of deliveries in the coming weeks will indicate whether the reduced price actually broadens the buyer pool beyond the earlier higher cost variants. Taken together, these updates show Tesla continuing to refine both the visible and the behind-the-scenes elements of the vehicle. The lighting change and the extended recording buffer both rely on software scheduling of existing components rather than new parts. The insurance product and the contract language adjustment both reflect the ongoing effort to align supervised FSD with regulatory and liability realities. The eye-tracking refinement and the highway test results both point to incremental progress that still leaves room for further work on edge cases. And the depreciation data alongside the new Cybertruck pricing both speak to how buyers will weigh long-term ownership costs as more vehicles reach the market. Keep an eye on whether the Indiana insurance approach spreads and whether the longer dashcam buffer leads to similar extensions for other logging features. The next indicator will likely come from how these supervised systems perform across additional long-distance routes and how regulators respond to the updated monitoring logic. TSLA closed at $428.80, up $5.06 or 1.2%. If you found this useful, a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify really helps new listeners find the show. You can also find us on X at Tesla Shorts Time. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Planetarian Daily a listen for daily breakthroughs in science, health, and longevity. You can explore the whole lineup at neuranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.